All right, so we're chatting with Brandon Phillips,
Oh,
composer who is deep in the middle of a full-length album that he's been putting together for a while. I think you're almost done it. Um, and what's kind of interesting that I found interesting is that you're working with multiple producers across 5 different studios, multiple musicians.
right.
So I was kind of wondering, um, how that's kind of all been taking place for you. And so like today's going to be a bit of like a behind the scenes of how you take a project like this and bring it to life. So
Right.
yeah, before I have some questions prepared, but before I dive in, is there anything you want to add to that little introduction? Maybe about yourself or the project?
I guess I'm Brandon Phillips. I've been writing music since I was in high school, essentially. I played in a band, I went to school for music production, and I moved out west here. And since moving out here, I've just been heavily focused on creation and making my team and producing my album.
Right on. Awesome. And where are you from?
I'm originally from Burlington, Ontario. Uh,
You're from Burlington, Ontario?
Burlington, Ontario, yeah, it's
That's
about
where
30
I'm
minutes west of Toronto. Yeah.
I'm from there too, to be honest with you.
You're kidding me. Wow. What is
Yeah, I
the
went to,
chances?
went to Aldershot High School. You know Aldershot?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's so funny.
That is
Okay,
amazing. Wow. I went
cool.
to Robert Bateman, if you're familiar. Robert
Okay.
Bateman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're on like the other side of town, I
Pretty
think.
much. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
More on the east
West
side.
Line or
Even further east.
Walkers.
Even further, like Appleby,
Apple.
New Street. Yeah.
Okay.
That's so
Cool.
funny. What is the chances, eh?
That's so fun. Yeah. All right. So let's get into it. So you're juggling 2 producers, I think 2. I think you were working with Ron Taller. I'm not sure if you still are or not, if he's involved, and 5 studios. So I'm curious, how have you managed to navigate so many different pieces across this, landscape with the studios and the producers?
Well, I actually owe it to my producers in regards to keeping everything organized. Like they're kind of in charge of knowing what studio we're going to be recording which instrument at, and they've kind of planned out the entire thing. But in regards to working with 2 producers, I mean, I kind of treat them as one entity in my eyes. Like they work so closely together that it really is kind of like working with one person. They're a true team,
Hmm.
and together they have made this possible. So,
Hmm.
like for instance, out of some of the students that I work at, they don't allow for drums. So we separated drums to another studio, and we're doing strings at another studio somewhere else, and we're doing vocals and piano at another place, and so on. Just kind of whatever is best suited for that specific instrument and environment.
Yeah, and that's Jordan and his partner Danny.
That's correct. Yeah, Jordan Back and Daniel Martins are my 2 producers, and they're also a part of a band together called 12 Times Pretty.
Right, right. And is there a reason you decided you wanted to work with them, or was it just like happened organically?
Well, I was going to some open mics in town when I first started making my new music and presenting it to people, and I met somebody there who was a part of the House of Owl community, and he said, "Hey, come check it out. I'll introduce you to some people," and that's kind of where I met Jordan. And at this time, he was kind of the only producer that I had met really in
Okay.
town, and I had this album prepared. I had this huge form that outlined every song, like chords, lyrics, everything. I just had this huge document. And I said, hey guys, by the way, I have this album that I have totally written out and prepared. And I showed it to them. I said, we have to make this happen. Right? They said, this needs to happen. Whether it's me or somebody else, we're going to make this happen. Right? And I said,
Mhm.
well, I would love it to be you guys because you guys believe in me and support me. And
Mm,
so that's kind of how this came to be.
beautiful. And this was when did you say you started this kind of project relationship?
I discovered the House of L in 2023, I want to say, 2023. So I think that was about the time that things kind of began, production wise at least. But
Mhm,
I've been writing my songs now since I was 16.
mhm, mhm. Now, as a someone with a background in music production yourself, was there a reason why you thought, why don't I find some help instead of doing it yourself?
Yes. Well, first of all, having access to studios is not something that I had.
Uh,
I don't have like a home studio. I've got an interface at home, and I have some, SM58 microphones, but those aren't really proper for creating high quality audio. So I
yeah.
wanted something high quality and professional, and that could be passed down for generations. And to do that, I needed something. I needed professional equipment. So that was the
Hmm.
one reason.
Hmm.
And the second reason is that I don't necessarily like the production side of things. I know a lot
Hmm.
of things. I'm generally pretty good at it, but I don't really like it. I would
Hmm.
prefer having somebody else operating the board and making sure we're getting proper levels, and I don't really have to worry so much. So that was another reason. And third reason, there is a third reason, but I can't think of it right now. I might have to get back to you.
Well, those are good reasons. The first two are good. Um, so working with arranging, so you have the vision for the songs,
Mhm.
uh, and you're going to the producers. They kind of know what you're trying to do, and then you're going. I assume the producers are kind of working with the musicians directly, or are you also working with the musicians? Are you there in the studio? Basically, how do you make sure that the arrangements of the songs are staying in line with your vision?
Right, right. So it kind of depends. Some of the musicians I worked directly with, and some of the musicians I don't know if I will be working directly with. But the ones that I have worked directly with, I have um, essentially written all the parts preemptively. Like I wrote all the drum beats, all the guitars, all the MIDI parts, everything, and then presented it to the instrumentalists and said, try to make something as close to this as possible. So they had some sort of starting point
Yeah.
and extrapolated from my idea or copied it exactly. So it was pretty close. But the two instrumentalists so far, actually, there's a few, but I've worked with a violinist closely. I've worked with my drummer, which is actually Ron Taller. So you mentioned Ron earlier. He's
Okay.
actually my drummer on the track on all tracks.
Yeah.
Um, Doug Powell is my guitarist. I worked with a trombonist in person, and I feel like there's somebody missing. Oh, there was a bassist and a second guitarist that I work with as well in person. And I think there's to be a cellist that I'll be working with directly. But the rest, I think, will be done either by MIDI or through my producers. They're going to be directing that. But I've essentially written all the parts anyways, so it's
I
very
see.
easy to communicate it.
And are you present at these sessions, generally
Uh,
speaking?
for the ones that I was a part of, yes, yes, I was there for every single drum tracking, every single guitar tracking, bass tracking.
Yeah.
Um, Trombone, I was there for that. But any of the strings hasn't been done yet, where that's in process. Brass is in process. I don't know if I'm going to be there for those. I just don't know.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you don't always have to be there, but it's nice to be able to be there so you can make sure it's, sounding the way you want. And I guess if you're not there, you hear it later, and
Hmm.
it can be tricky. Like if you track something and the session's over and everyone's packed up and you've got a limited amount of audio that you're working with, that's one thing. But it's harder to go back and say we got to retrack something. Or
Yeah, yeah,
so hopefully that's not been the case because you've already written so much of the music or all of the music that they know kind of what you're doing, what you're going for.
exactly. Yeah, it's less that I need to be there to look for nuance because there's essentially no room for nuance. It's like you're copying exactly what I've written, and Danny and Jordan just make sure, like, hey, this note is not right, or this is not the way it's enunciated, or way he articulated this note here. And
Mhm.
they kind of have that sense and see the vision that I'm going for, and I trust them with that, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah, I guess it's important to have that relationship where they believe in your project and they understand the project.
Yeah.
In terms of managing the practical side of things, how
Mhm.
have you found, if you don't mind getting into this a little bit, how have you found working with multiple different um, personnel and like compensating them? Like, how are you managing the practical side of all of this? Do you have a system in place or structure in place for that?
Well, it was kind of a contract deal that I made with my producers. So I've paid a lump sum amount, and that amount is then allocated to the various projects. So I don't necessarily know the breakdown of how people are getting paid and
Okay.
whatnot. But everybody is getting paid.
Hmm.
That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Um, I just don't know. I don't know specifically how the income is allocated.
That's really interesting. So you've entered into a contract with the production team, the producers,
Hmm.
and they've been figuring out the connecting the dots,
That's
basically.
right.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and is there any sort of back end royalty split going on, or is this strictly sort of like a work for hire situation?
No, there is a royalty split agreement. So I'm providing income up front for the service, but then there'll also be a percentage of ownership of the masters.
Mm-hmm.
So I think together as a group, they said that they may take up to 14%, so like 7% each
Mm-hmm.
of each song, right?
Yeah.
But it could be as little as 7%, so 3.5% of each song.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's nothing in my eyes, and it's worth it for something high quality and that will pass down. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, how did you guys, was the negotiation process pretty seamless, or how did that kind of go? If you don't mind.
yeah, it was pretty casual. We had a good conversation about it. We made some just kind of yes or no handshakes, and that was it. You know, we signed an agreement,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all in good faith. You know, it was like, hey, we're gonna make something amazing, and you know, I want to pay you fairly. You know,
Mm-hmm.
how do we come to an agreement?
Mm-hmm.
And here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, man. Like when you're that you believe in your project enough, or you're passionate enough, you just believe in what you're doing enough, then you will find a way to make the pieces align. You'll get things to align. Um,
Absolutely.
and that frees you up. It sounds like it's really freed you up to focus more on the creative side of things, having these producers there to sort of help to do the behind the scenes stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like now I can just focus on getting my vocal takes right or making sure that my piano part is perfect and
Yeah,
practicing for live performance. Like I can really just focus on the performance side of things
yeah,
and they handle essentially everything else. So
yeah,
I'm super grateful of them. Yeah.
yeah. And it's interesting too, having like a fixed contract is like it's kind of already, you don't have to worry about things going over or under. You just sort of like, here it is. We're going to work with this budget. We're going to make it happen within this budget.
Right.
Boom. Yeah.
It's like, 5 hours a song or whatever. We're spending 5 hours on vocals for each song and that's it. Like,
Hmm.
okay. Right. Let's stick to that and we'll commit to that and that'll be it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I guess you have to be sort of disciplined with
Yeah.
how much time. You can't just allow things to go on forever.
Exactly. Okay. You got to be prepared, and everything has to be exactly scheduled.
Hmm. So for other creatives who are looking to maybe record,
Hmm.
could be one song, could be an EP, could be a full length album, and they maybe have a bit of a production background, maybe they have no production background. What would you recommend to them getting started if they wanted to sort of take their ideas and get them onto a digital record or a final product?
Hmm. Well, it's tough because you have to ask yourself: is this something that you want to do on your own, or are you wanting to take on a team of people that are willing to help you? Because for me, there would have been no way for me to do it alone. Right? I said to myself, I need a team of people. I'm going to search for that team of people. But if you are the kind of person who says, I don't want a team of people, I want to do this all on my own, I feel like it's harder for me to give advice. But my advice to people that are searching to put their songs out there, seek out people who understand the business
Mhm.
and are believe in what it is that you're doing, support your vision,
Mhm.
and surround yourself with people like that.
Mhm.
Because you will always shrink your talent to the size of what people can stand, right? As
Mm.
long as you surround yourself with people that support you, your vision can reach its full potential.
Can you say that one line again? You said something about you'll always shrink your.
He'll always
Talent.
shrink your talent to the size of what people can stand.
I've never heard that before. Did you hear that somewhere? Where did
I
you get
did.
that?
It's a quote from a pastor, I believe. His name is Keon Henderson, I think is how you pronounce his name. I may have it wrong, but yeah, a great
It
quote by that gentleman.
it reminds me of like there's another analogy like you'll only play up to the level of your opponent. Like if you're playing tennis, you'll only
Mhm.
play as good as like the person you're playing against. But if you're playing against someone who's like really good, it forces you to be better. So it
Correct,
sounds like you're kind of saying the same thing. If you're working with like talented people who are holding you maybe to a higher standard, you are pulled into that higher standard a bit more.
for sure. But also to push away people who don't see your potential, who don't acknowledge what it is that you see, right?
Mm,
Um, I think there are a lot of people in my life who chose to neglect what it is that I was capable of because I didn't necessarily believe in myself. But once I started believing in myself, all of a sudden people started coming running. You know, you
mm,
have to believe in yourself and you have to surround yourself with people who believe in you.
100% believe that. Yeah, it's so important. Have there been any surprises during this process for you that you might, next time be more aware of?
I think yes, yes. So, a part of the reason that my project is so delayed, like it's taking a lot longer than I anticipated. And the reason is because when I made my original agreements, I had outlined the instruments that I had specifically wanted for certain songs, but I had a banner that said strings and a banner that said brass and a banner that said flutes. But I didn't specify, how many string parts there were. There's four violins, two cellos, and a double bass, and I didn't really
Mm,
specify that.
yeah.
And so when the parts came forward in the MIDI, all of a sudden my producers were like, "Wait, this is way more than we anticipated. It's amazing, it's genius, but we need to reassess the plan and figure out how we're going to do this now because there's way more parts." So now I know, like, I need to be more specific about the individual instruments being used and the individual parts.
Yeah. And now, did that result in something having to shift in the contract or the agreement? Did that have to
Sort of.
be?
Yes, yes. The original plan was to do all of the strings live. Right, we are going to do all the strings live, but once they figured out like it was more than just one or two violin parts, they said, okay, we can maybe do part of the strings live and part of the strings electronic. So I think we're doing all real cello and maybe some real violin. I don't know for sure, but
Mhm.
part of it will be MIDI now, and brass will still be real. But that we've done some reassessment of how much that's going to cost, and
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it sounds like too, when you first kind of started with this plan and this vision, you had already figured out everything you're going to need and you documented all that for the production team to know what to expect. Is that right?
that's correct. Yeah, I had a breakdown of each song, what instruments being used, the chords, the progression, the lyrics, and the meaning of the songs, all on one page for each song.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
That's a lot of preparation. A lot of
yeah,
repetition, too.
yeah, yeah. Without it, I don't think that they would have accepted the project. I think that they would have felt like it was too unorganized, and the project
Mm,
would have been too big and cumbersome. But because I had it all laid out, and the time is going to slow down here and speed up here, and the time signature is going to change here, they knew exactly all those spots, and so because of that, they said we can do this.
wow. Yeah. I feel like a lot of artists do not have the same clarity of all of their songs. Like it's
Right.
almost rare to know exactly what you kind of want to have. Um,
Well, it
did you?
takes time. It takes time. It took me years of preparation to write those songs. Like I've been writing them since I was 16, and just
Oh,
adding and layering and picking out the ideas from my brain over many years. And so now this is a collection,
mhm,
but it took a long time to become that prepared.
mhm. And my production brain wants to know: did you record demos of these along the way to flesh them out more?
I yes, yes. I recorded like a piano part and my vocal as like a scratch demo, and then the ones that I wrote in my synthesizer, I fully recorded on my phone. Like they were literally just scratch recordings on my phone, and I presented them to my producers, and they said, "Yeah, we're making this happen." It's
Hmm.
actually still on my SoundCloud, those scratch recordings, but I will eventually make them unavailable. But they're there for now if people ever want to listen. But
Yeah, because I know like I would probably want to like MIDI out all of the string parts and basically like make the song as clearly as I could in the DAW. And then I
yes,
know have
yeah,
like a model of it. And then okay, let's rebuild this with like the real strings and the real brass, etc.
totally. And that's exactly my approach. That's exactly what I did. For a lot of the songs, it was either just piano in my synthesizer, or as you mentioned, inside of the DAW system. There was a couple that I did in the DAW.
Yeah.
Running from the Wolves was one I did in the DAW.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to help with like organizing everything. But that's still pretty incredible that you actually managed to have like a full document put together, which does give so much more like of the scope to the producers.
Right.
So you mentioned how anticipating, you could have been clearer in some of the areas of the document about, you know, the breadth or scope of like the players, what you needed.
Right.
Were there any other surprises or any other lessons that you kind of picked up along this? Like this is your first
Mhm.
full, like, big scale project, I assume.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a lot of it's very new to you. It's sort of been stretched out a bit longer. This tends to happen with timelines and stuff. But yeah, like were there any other kind of surprises, good or bad, that you maybe would advise to people?
Um. I guess a, a surprise that isn't really relevant to recording, but just to the music business in general, is that there's so much more to being an artist than just recording and making music and being good at your instrument.
Hmm.
It's like there's a million different things that you have to do in order to monetize yourself and to present your work art to the world. Like there's a million, like thousands of things that you have to do in order
Yeah.
to prepare yourself. And I think that was definitely a shock, is seeing all of those additional things that I now have to do and all the hats I have to wear. It's like, oh my gosh, why do I have to be on social media? Why do I have to, be an artist, like a visual artist? Why do I have to be a filmographer? Like,
Yeah.
why do I have to be all of these things when I just want to play piano?
Right.
So there was
Yes.
that kind of shock, but um, there's pros and cons to it, and I'm learning to love all parts of it.
Yeah. It's a kind of a reality of today's music world is that you have to like create content about
Yes,
yourself to promote yourself. And you're right. I think a lot of artists are like, wait a minute, I didn't really sign up for this. But you do have to sort of take those roles, and learn how to adapt them in a way that works for you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole other conversation in itself. Um, so when do you expect the album to be finished? I think you said you were close to the end of it.
that's right. Yeah, we're finished tracking our drums, our bass, guitar, piano, organ, and yes, I think that's all we tracked so far. We're in the process of tracking vocals. Like I just started like a couple weeks ago,
Hmm.
and brass and strings are next. So I should have every all of the recording done. I want
Hmm.
to say like end of July,
Hmm.
and then the album release I'm aiming for September, and
Hmm.
I will be releasing a single as well over the summertime.
Man, that's exciting.
Thank you.
How often are you in the studio right now tracking vocals?
I'm in tracking the vocals 3 times a week,
3 times a week. For how long is the session? A couple
like
hours?
4 hours each.
4 hours. Oh man, that's a lot of. It's quite a lot of singing.
Yeah, yeah, constant. I'm always preparing. On the days I'm not singing, I'm like preparing my vocals.
Or resting them.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, like resting, making sure I'm not overdoing things, and yeah.
Mhm. And you're tracking them at House of Owl?
For vocals, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And the other studios, where are they located? Just out of curiosity, are they around Vancouver Island?
They are, yeah, all in Vancouver Island. They're for one of the guitarists that I work with. He runs his own studio where I tracked with guitars, and that was at Big Awesome Entertainment.
Hmm.
It's in Shawnigan Lake,
Hmm.
and I did my single Whispering Man that I'll be releasing in the summertime. I tracked all the drums, all the guitar, piano, everything for that at Barnhouse Sound in Qualicum Beach.
Hmm.
And then I did all my drums at Burning Rainbow Studios, and that's actually in downtown Victoria as well on Blanchard Street.
Yeah.
And I did I might Danny, my other producer, is associated with Blackbird Studios, so I think we might be doing strings and brass out of there, but I don't know for sure. But he's an affiliated studio, so there's my
Yeah.
five right there.
Yeah. And again, you just show up and play. You're not having to pay the, the studio manager or any of this. It's already in the contract. You've already
That's,
kind of got everything. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, all kind of set up ahead of time.
Yeah. I mean, that's so cool. I'm thinking now, man, I'd almost like to really talk to Jordan about how he, as a producer, manages that, because that's a whole
Right.
other ball of wax.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have no idea, to be honest, how he does it, and it's like magic to me. From my perspective, it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, this has been really cool to be able to chat about this. I want to thank you just for being so like open and about the process and sharing your experiences of this. I think it's helpful for other people to sort of see what's going on.
Absolutely.
Um,
Thank you so much for having me, David. It's such an honor to be on your show, man. Thank you so much.
yeah, man, anytime. Well, let's do it again. And I can't wait to hear these songs. I really can't wait to hear this album. I'm really looking forward to it. So, best of luck to you finishing it and tracking all these vocals. Make sure you're drinking lots of tea or whatever the heck you're supposed to do, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure I'll see you around
Yeah,
Victoria.
thank you so much,
So,
David. Yeah, we'll talk soon, okay?
all right, man. Thanks
Cheers,
again.
man. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.